How is everyone doing today? And in this video, we are going to be looking over the meta for Zenless Zone Zero because we haven't talked about it since the first version of the game, which was 1.0. And now that we've had Ellen and Julien come into the game, both having their different types of play styles, same thing goes for looking at what we have in version 1.1 with Chingi being in the game, and also looking that Seth and Jane are coming as well. There's a lot of different changes we're going to see in the meta when they come out, and not only that, when version 1.2 comes out, we're just going to flip over a bunch of roles, which we're going to talk about in this video. But let's go ahead and start looking at the tier list when it comes to our brand new characters added to the game, which of course is Chingi, because we get our 4-star when Jane gets here, and we'll talk about that as well. Now, of course, Chingi is going to be tier 0 in Zenless Zone Zero, and it's 100% makes sense in my honest opinion. I do want to make some changes to this Prydwen tier list that we are looking at for our foundation of these rankings of how good these characters are at the moment. I do want to make some changes in regards to, I think some characters a little bit more stronger. I think some characters aren't as strong as they seem, and I also want to give my reasoning for that as well. But for the main reason that Chingi is tier 0, why not? She has very little, I can say, startup time to be able to start dazing, especially when looking at how she stays in her form when she's dodging, how she's able to shortcut her way there with her skill. It's a lot of different ways to get there, and not only that, you're also able to add a huge stun damage multiplier whenever you go ahead and use all your heavy attacks, hit the enemy, and they're going to get a massive damage increase when it comes to the DPS that you're currently using. Not only that, one thing that is really good for Chingi, which in my opinion, I do think Chingi deserves to be in tier 0 by herself, and the reason why is because now already with what I said is that she's able to stay in her stun state for a really quick amount of time. She's able to get in there as fast as possible, is able to do her job really quickly. Not only that, she's able to be able to dodge within it, being able to make it super smooth to be able to get her to get that daze off on the enemy. But the main thing, besides being able to do so on terms of being able to stun, being able to add a huge damage multiplier, which is a big help for a lot of DPSs. But the main thing is that she works with every DPS that will ever come out in the game, because she works with faction-based affiliation, which is going to be your police faction, and she also works with attack units, which is every attack unit that's going to come out in the game, or every DPS that will come out in the future for Zenless Zone Zero. I think that's a pretty big deal in my honest opinion. Now, depending on whether they keep the same format with future characters, whether it be element plus faction, or they change it to support or anomaly plus faction, it's a lot of different ways this can go, but she's gonna have way more teams in the future than a lot of these other characters, especially someone like Lycan and someone like Koleda, where Lycan, he's doing god tier stuff for the ice team, but a lot of those bonuses fall flat when you're not using the ice team, which of course we are going to be looking at mono-centered teams at the current moment because Anomaly hasn't picked up. But I do think once Jane comes out, she's probably going to be in that area of bringing up the Anomaly based damage, and also showing us that Anomaly should be built and Anomaly should be used as a team, but we'll talk about that later on. Mainly, I want to say that Chingi, probably in my opinion, deserves to be in tier 0 by herself. I do think Lycan goes to 0.5, Koleda goes to 1, and Ambi goes to 2. I think with the recent fix to Koleda's day, she's able to actually get a crap ton off, so she's a viable stun unit as well. Lycan though is still one tier above, I think, to say Koleda in my opinion, just because he's able to get the days off faster. Not only that, he provides a crap ton of buffs, and not only that, he still is one to give the stun damage multiplier as well. Not as high as Chingi, but I do think Chingi has her own benefit that help out a lot more. Lycan, although, is very limited in where he's able to go, because he only can go for main faction and he only can go for ice teams, and at the current moment he's kind of stun locked to only being on the ice team, especially with how his bonuses work. A lot of it is dealing around ice, and it kind of takes away the universal aspect of the character versus someone like Chingi. So I do think everyone should get bumped down a spot and leave Chingi by herself in tier 0 in my honest opinion, just because of how universal, how good Chingi is. Like it says, the stun damage multiplier, he's still really good with the ice team, so I do think putting him in 0.5 is fair. Koleda down to tier 1 just because there's not a lot of teams at the current moment that are going to use Koleda besides a team with her and Ben, Bellabog, and then the fire mono team, I guess you could say, was Soldier, Lucy, and Koleda, which aren't high performing teams at the current moment in my honest opinion, just because a lot of the stuff in the Shiyu defense isn't fire based, and a lot of that is just not going to help out. Not only that, Hollow Zero also doesn't help out with the fire cards, unless I just never seen them. But Koleda just isn't used as much as a lot of these other guys. And then Anomaly, she's still a really good 4-star as a stunner. In my honest opinion, I think she's still a really good one, and apparently she's still one of the highest stunners in the game by far. I just think personally that versus a lot of these other 5-star stunners, which it makes a lot of sense, 4 stars versus 5 stars, the 5 stars are gonna have a little bit more utility and a little bit more options than someone like a 4-star for Ambi. But I still think a lot of y'all that have put invested resources into Ambi is not gone to waste. She's still a really good stunner at the end of the day, and definitely someone you can abide by for a very long time. Looking at the DPS column really quickly, of course, Ellen and Zhu Yin are both absolutely amazing what they do. Ellen being a more on-field DPS that wants to stay on the field a little bit more longer than usual, while someone like Zhu Yin is actually going to be a character that only wants to be there whenever the enemy is dazed, whenever they get that stun damage, because not only are you using someone like Chingi on the team, but someone like Zhu Yin is also getting a boost whenever these enemies are stunned. So she's getting a huge damage increase when she has not only her full bullets, you have skills on deck, and also the ultimate allowing you to refill your bullets a little bit more to keep on with that burst damage. And while you wait for your stunner to daze them again, you're gonna be passively getting Zhu Yin's bullets with quick assist, with being able to do chain attacks, and you'll basically be having a self-fulfilling process to be able to get a crap ton of damage out at the same time. So it's really cool to see that already with our brand new DPSs, we've already gotten someone that's a mainstay on field carry versus someone who really wants to have short amount of field time and be on the field as little as possible when it comes to only waiting for the bosses to come out during stun. Now there are some use cases for both of these guys where they may switch up what they do in their role, but for the most part that's usually what they're doing in the most part when it comes to their DPS. So I do think this is fair. Tier 0 for both. They're both absolutely insane for the most part, and it's gonna take some time before we bump these guys down one and we see a crazier DPS in the future. Miyabi, but we'll have to wait and see if that's actually the case. Going into our next tier, of course 0.5 is alone by itself at the moment, but in my honest opinion, I do think that someone like Nekoma, especially, which I'm assuming this is going to be the change, because if not, that's going to be a little bit of a concern. But looking at Nekoma versus Soldier, I think both of these guys are absolutely great in what they do. A lot of the DPSs right now are really good at the content that we have currently provided to us for the end game. I think Nekoma though is either right now or definitely when Jane gets here going to see it increase in power by a crap ton. And the reason I say this is because when you're using Nekoma specifically, especially with Jane Doe or even by herself, the fire reaction, or not fire, the physical reaction, which is assault, hurts so freaking much in this game. It's evaporating enemies. It builds up really quickly with Nekoma. You have multiple sources of physical damage, and not only that, a lot of the stuff that plays into her kit really works with it for sure, especially when you're looking at something like her relic set. Whenever you proc assault, you get a damage boost that plays around with Nekoma. Nekoma is going to be playing with other physical units most likely, and one of the units that makes assault so freaking absurd is going to be Jane, especially when we're looking at someone like Seth, who we're going to have in the future, who's also going to be boosting Anomaly proficiency for whoever he quick switches into or whoever he chains attack into, which can make someone like Nekoma, someone like Jane Doe, being able to do some monstrous damage. And not only that, Jane Doe is also able to crit with her assaults, making her absolutely strong. I do think right now that the fire reaction is a little bit lacking at the current moment, and there's not a lot of importance to a lot of people looking at what these anomalies are doing. And while the fire and also the shock, if I'm not wrong, they both give off their dot that goes off every so often, the assault you get from Nekoma, the assault you're getting from these characters like Piper, like Jane, they're pulling out some insane numbers that are toppling a lot of these main DPS's damage when it comes to the amount of burst damage, I guess you could say, you get at the very start of their DPS phase. So someone like Nekoma, I think she deserves the 0.5 spot, just because not only are you allowed to have that nasty amount of anomaly buildup, that nasty amount of anomaly damage that you're getting off of those assaults, but you also have a really good amount of movement with Nekoma, with having free access to get behind characters with their hold attack. So I do think Nekoma specifically is a really great character, and definitely one that people should look into. I do think he's a little bit stronger than Soldier at the moment. While I do think Soldier is amazing, don't get me wrong, I think she's really good, especially if you're able to time your attacks with the fire slash suppressive mode, which makes her absolutely amazing, especially when you're looking at how she's able to get that attack bonus from her passive, where she's able to get more if you are in the suppressive mode. And if you're keeping it up 100%, you're absolutely golden when it comes to using Soldier 11. I don't think she has a full-on premium team right now, but I do see her getting one very, very soon, and we'll most likely get more faction mates as time goes by. She's still a really good DPS, probably stays in tier 1, but I do think Nekoma right now specifically deserves to go to 0.5, and if not, with Jane's release, definitely going in 0.5 without a doubt. A lot of these other characters with Anton, with Billy and Corin, I have seen some use cases with them when it comes to them having actual cinemas added to them, where they get a little bit more absurd, especially Corin. I think I saw someone use Shiyu 17 and basically shredding the boss in less than 30 seconds with having a full-on duped Corin. So there's a lot of crazy stuff, but this is considering that we are doing only M0. So with that being said, it makes sense that all these guys are by themselves. For Anomaly DPS, we don't really have any of these characters here. Right now, I see Jane going in tier 0 without a doubt. There's no question in any way, shape, or form. She is a god tier unit when it comes to Anomaly, just because she's able to make her assault crit. Assault's already a nasty damage boom when it comes to building out that physical Anomaly. Grace right now is struggling as well. She won't see a lot of play right now, besides possibly making a makeshift team with Jane. Other than that, she has the Bellabog team, which really don't help her with her disorder type of team. And then looking at Piper as well, Piper is actually going to get a big buff very, very soon, especially with even Jane coming out. I do think Piper has the potential to be able to do a lot of damage, especially with her brand new teammates that will be coming out, which are Bernice and Caesar. So in my honest opinion, I do think that someone like Piper is very easily going to get thrown up in the 0.5 status. So if you haven't built into Piper, might be worth it, because in all honesty, especially when you're looking at a 4-star, it's like, how is a 4-star better than Grace? The reason why Piper is so strong is because whenever she does have her faction or element, she's able to give a damage bonus to the whole team just by doing her full EX skill, which is going to prove to be an insane bonus when we start coupling in that we're going to have Bernice. So we have a fire anomaly unit and a physical anomaly unit, which is Piper, in the same faction, allowing you to get that damage boost with Piper, and you're going to get a crap ton of disorders switching between the two. And not only that, you have someone like Lucy to be able to help out with the buffs, or even if you're not using Lucy, you're using someone like what's her name, Caesar, to be able to be on the team. So that's a pretty big deal. So I think Piper's gonna go up in 0.5 very soon alongside Grace. Grace just right now doesn't have a full-on team that she wants to be on specifically that's gonna net her as much possible damage as possible. Right now, she's really stuck to the Shock team or Bellabog, and we really need more teammates for someone like Grace to be able to allow her Shock Anomaly to be able to do something. Because right now, I think Anomaly for Shock and also Fire are a little bit lacking at the moment, specifically looking towards something like Physical and looking at Ether and Ice. Their anomalies actually provide a lot of different values when it comes to Ice being able to stun, Physical doing that big nuke damage or the big boom of damage, and then you're looking at Ether with constant procs every single time you do damage, which is a pretty good reaction in my honest opinion. While you see something like Soldier, something like Grace with their elements, it's a little bit hard to deal with their anomalies when they don't provide as crazy a value versus those other anomalies that I mentioned before. So I do think Piper's going to get a little bit stronger as time goes by. I already said that Lycan, Coleta, and Ambi should get shifted one down. I do think all of these guys are really good still. This is actually the most balanced role in the game. I think Stun, from Anomaly all the way to Chingi, they're all really great in doing their own job. Specifically, it's just that when you go on this list, when I say that everybody goes down one, you're kind of choosing how fast do I want to clear, with Ambi being a little bit harder because she doesn't give any stun damage multiplier, with Coleta being a step above Ambi, being able to stun a little bit faster. And then you have someone like Lycan, stun damage multiplier, ice buff, and really good stunner. And then Chingi, universal, super fast time, 2 days. You also have the stun damage multiplier, which is an insane amount, and a lot of built-in dodge to her kit, which is really good. The biggest problem I have right now when it comes to the support tab, and funny enough for Ben, I'm not going to talk about Ben. I've really talked about Ben in terms of my own opinion. We might build him one day. A lot of people say he's really good, and I want to give him the light of day, especially because I really like defense units in the way that Zenless is building them, especially with Seth. We will talk about Ben in the future. I might even build him in a video. We'll see how that goes. But going into the next few ones, I do want to say that with Lucy and Rena got dropped down one. Understandable for the most part. She hasn't seen a lot of time in a lot of different teams. Right now, pen ratio is apparently not that good when looking at defense ignore versus an attack boost. So I can understand why Rena got dropped a bit. I don't agree that Kaku still needs to be tier 0. This is something that needed to be changed a while back, and I mean ever since 1.0 Ellen release. And the reason I say this, actually maybe not Ellen release, Juyin release, yeah, she needed to get dropped down. Kaku deserves to be, in my honest opinion, the only reason she's not in tier 1 is because Rena's pen ratio isn't that great, which sucks for the most part, and I really hate that that's the case, especially as a 5-star unit. I hope they buff pen ratio in some way, shape, or form to be able to make it perform better as a debuff or a buff or however you want to say it. So hopefully this gets changed so that she can get thrown up in the tier list. But Kaku is definitely not tier 0. I do not care that her attack is universal. She's only on the ice team, and that is the only team you're putting her on. That is without a doubt all that she's able to do. You're not rocking her in any other team but ice. And even with that, Kaku not only does have invulnerability on her skill, which takes years to get off when it comes to her chain attack, when it comes to being able to get off her fly the flags, quick assistant, it's too much for Kaku. The nice attack universal buff is really good, but someone like Nicole is far better than someone like Kaku. So switch Nicole into tier 0, switch Kaku down to 0.5. Nicole takes no time on the field. She pops her skill, you're done. Not only that, crazy amount of anomaly buildup for someone like Juyin. Not only that, she has an ether damage bonus. She has a signature that gives you a squad damage bonus. She has the relic set that gives her squad damage bonus. And then not only that, you also have 40% defense ignore, which is absolutely insane in these games. And not only that, Nicole has a gather or a crowd control, or however you want to say it, when it comes to a pull-in. These are all aspects of a god tier character, and if you still haven't built Nicole after I made a video, I probably already made a tier list before, and then now you're hearing it right now, Nicole is definitely a character you want to build. She's good no matter what. She's able to work in so many different teams. She has a defense ignore, which is universal. Her signature is universal. She has a core passive that's going to help every ether character in the future. And she will always be that character that will be on a team for ether DPS. And even more so, a character that will be on any DPS's team, just because of how strong all the utility that she has when it comes to gather, when it comes to the anomaly buildup, which is absolutely insane, and also all the other things I already mentioned, which she's absolutely busted for. Like I said, and not only that, her skill is completely invulnerable. So you can have your skill, hold it, you're good. You're not taking damage. Kaku, you're dying. So that's the thing that I want to say for Kaku. I don't think she's tier 0 in any way, shape, or form. You're only ever using her inside ice teams. I've never seen anyone use her in any other team besides an ice team. Nicole, though, I think Nicole is a really, really great support and deserves that 0 spot over Kaku for the most part. But other than that, that's pretty much it over the tier list. Very short tier list for the most part. I don't know how long this video is, 18 minutes. Not too bad in my honest opinion. But I do think for the most part that this tier list is pretty short for right now because, of course, we are waiting for future characters. Like I said, Jane is most likely going to be in the tier 0 for Anomaly DPS, as she should. And then for Seth, I could definitely see Seth in the tier 1. I don't think Seth is absolutely broken, but I do think he's a much needed and a really good character for the Anomaly team. So we might see someone like Seth in tier 1, maybe, and I mean like 10% maybe tier 0.5, just because with Jane, really good addition to the Anomaly team and really gives a lot towards what the defense role is able to do. I do think he provides a little bit more than Lucy. I don't know about the comparison to Rena, but definitely at least in tier 1 when it comes to having Seth in the game. But other than that, that's going to be it for this video when it comes to the roundup of the meta that we have in Zenless Zone Zero. Let me know what your thoughts are and keep it, civil for the most part. Let's not tear each other's heads off. But it's a cool discussion. I really like the way this is being dealt with and how the meta is currently going in Zenless. I don't think there's anybody that's overly OP, and I don't think there's characters that bad. I think it's a really good mix that we are really close from the ceiling to the floor, which is a really cool thing for Zenless. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the next one. And peace.